All right, so DFS, a real scorcher of a game. You can bet that you can almost guarantee that the defenses will be in play for this particular situation. I also think there's a good chance. Najee Harris, 18-6 as a captain. Deontay Johnson, 16-8. Roethlisberger, 15-9. Fields, 15-6. Claypool, 13-5. David Montgomery, still on IR, 12-6 if he's activated. Of course, he's in play. Khalil Herbert, 12-3 for captain, making that choice very difficult. Allen Robinson, 10-8. Somehow, his over-under for receiving yards is 38.5, and he's a $10,000 captain. Pat Frymuth, 10-5. Mooney, 9-6. And then we get to the backup quarterbacks. Cole Kmet on the other side, 8-7. James Washington, 7-8, and then the Steelers defense, 7-5. Where will you start, Sully, for your captain spot?
Well, I mean, obviously, Najee Harris is one that you want to throw in there. I mean, he's just going to get the ball a ton. We talked about this on the podcast. The volume's going to be there, both in the running game and in the passing game. They're not really pushing the ball down the field. Roethlisberger is going to throw to him multiple times in this game. It's just, it does get very, very difficult when you start to, again, this is a game where the scoring's probably going to come at a premium. You're really going to have to be savvy here to try to figure out who is going to get maybe that 1-2 touchdowns for both offenses in this game. Again, when you have a total of 39.5, it's just, you really got to be smart about where you're going to go here. And when you have a captain like Najee Harris at this price, you're really limiting yourself later on when you're trying to have a more balanced roster.
Yeah, for sure. You can get Najee and Big Ben and Steelers D in there. If you want to do an onslaught, you could do a Najee, Big Ben, Steelers D, Deontay Johnson, Zach Gentry. I guess we'll throw in there as well. I'm trying to think.
So Gentry's someone I think is pretty interesting in this slate. I think he'll probably be highly owned because of his price. It's not high at all. It's $1,800. He had 5 targets last week. They're going to be in a lot of 12 personnel, so he's going to be out there with Freiermuth. You're going to see him log a lot of offensive snaps, and he'll just have some opportunities there for 3 catches for 35 yards, maybe even a touchdown. Like, that's where you're really going to see some value there returned. Outside of him, when you start to get really down into that lower bottom of this this pricing, it's really hard to find a guy that you like. I mean, Benny Snell, is that someone that you feel comfortable with? Right. No, you don't. But again, he's someone I think that might be in play a little bit. It's tough. I do wonder how you want to construct this roster. Do you want to throw Najee in at the captain spot? Do you feel like you have to? I mean, he's probably going to have 30% captain ownership, very similar to what we saw
between 20 and 30%, I would guess.
It'll be very similar to what we saw with Jonathan Taylor on Thursday night.
Yeah, just because you can fill out a roster. All right, so let's all right. If you go,
I'll tell you really quickly, Will, I'm just getting at this right now. Bears are expected to activate David Montgomery off of injured reserve to play.
So I mean, for me, if Montgomery is, get that in my ear right now. If Montgomery's playing, I have a hard time playing either Khalil Herbert or David Montgomery. One of them will probably score and will look like idiots, but those guys we don't know what the distribution of carries is going to be there.
Right.
I would, and there's no value inherently in either one because they're both priced up at, it's let's see, where's Montgomery? What is Montgomery as a flex? I mean, I think Khalil Herbert is 8,200 and Montgomery is 8,400. So you sort of have to plant your flag on one of those if you want to play a Chicago running back. What about Fields as captain?
Don't hate it.
So let's try Fields. Let's plug Fields in as the captain. And so he is 15-6. You're going to put Najee in as the flex. Obviously, I think if you go down the discount, you want to do that. I think you want to have Big Ben in the flex as well. And I don't know that you even have to have a pass. Maybe Cole Kmet, 5,800, cheap, sure.
I also think Darnell Mooney is cheap for this slate. Again, he's questionable. We'll have to see what his status is. Yeah. But if you're telling me I can save $600 and have Mooney in there over Freiermuth, I mean, we're talking about the number 2 wide receiver for Chicago. Again, it's not a great offense, but still talking about a number 2 wide receiver as opposed to a fourth option, third option tight end.
So we have 5,600 left. Yeah, and the thing with Freiermuth is like we're talking about first touchdown, over receiving yards, over receptions. He can have 4 catches, 40 yards.
Yeah,
And he ain't gonna get
and that's 7K off your roster.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's kind of interesting if you went. Can you go a 4-2 construction with Bears? Where let's get rid of Big Ben. Oh, sorry. Let's get rid of Big Ben. My bad. Let's
see. This is where it gets tough when you try to have Najee in there and include both quarterbacks. That's when you really start to get limited. No matter really who you put a captain between those three, it's still very tight squeeze when you get down to that 4th and 5th spot.
What if we did this? Now I've just walked myself into a 5-1 Bears. I don't know that I hate this 5-1 Bears onslaught where we have Fields as the captain, Allen Robinson, who has done nothing and is $7,200 as a flex spot, but like is probably due at some point.
Right.
Like, I mean, we're due for an Allen Robinson game at some point, and then we'll add Chicago defense and Darnell Mooney, who should be on the same page-ish area. Right? Bears are 2,600. Excuse me. Darnell Mooney 6,400. So we'll scroll up. And I mean, I don't know if I like this. I don't know. So basically, it's like Justin Fields goes off against a Steelers defense that isn't as good as we thought in a big primetime spot. Not goes off, but has a much better game than people expect. Rushes for a bunch of yards, and then Najee coming back the other way. That actually is exactly $50,000. I think I just accidentally picked the Costanza lineup.
I like it though. I mean, it's one of those where it's probably going to be unique. No one's going to go. I don't think you're going to see a lot of 5-1 lineups. And if they're picking a defense, it's probably going to be Pittsburgh's. I mean, it's the most expensive on out of the two. So again, this is what you kind of got to figure out here when you have a game where the offense is probably going to be limited, or at least it's projected to at 39.5. You kind of got to plant your flag a little bit harder to say, hey, listen, this is just how I don't think it's going to be this down the middle game. It's a Chicago game, bang, and you start to try to go down this route.
Yeah.
The only other weird lineup that maybe you could do, and again, I don't even know if I particularly like this, but is there a scenario where you're fading the quarterbacks at all?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think Fields is a little tougher to fade just because of the rushing equity. If he's running around and picking up rushing yards, but Fields could have a miserable game.
Yeah,
Fields could do nothing. So let's plug in the fade the quarterback lineup. And by the way, the guy who might be flying under the radar here is Chase Claypool. He had a bad game last week, but I mean, Claypool's a monster. Like
he's someone almost very similar to Allen Robinson, where you're waiting for that explosion game, and he's certainly somebody that has that ability. If they're gonna score, if someone on Pittsburgh is gonna score 2 touchdowns, its name is not Najee Harris, could very well be Chase Claypool that just starts to kind of blow up and is with that electrifying guy tonight.
Yeah, I also think, by the way, that we could see a situation where lots of people roster as captain the Steelers defense and then also have the Bears defense. I think if you go 5-1 Bears, I'm looking at Cody Main on Establish a Run. It looks like that will be extremely unique. 5-1 Steelers onslaught will not be quite as unique as people think, and the majority of people will probably go 4 Steelers, 2 Bears. So if you want to get leverage on the field, you kind of bears it up a little bit more. Not exactly easy to do. Yeah, Najee Harris projecting in the 26% range for the captain selection. Let's see what the Steelers defense is. Steelers defense only like 5% captain, which is actually kind of surprising. I mean, I don't mind. Let's fade the quarterbacks this way. What about you can tweet out your screenshots where you're winning like $4,000 as soon as the game kicks off. Steelers defense in the captain spot and Bears defense in the flex. What does that leave us if we do that? Let's see. So we go captain Steelers D. They actually don't project out that well in some of these optimizers. But like, I don't think it's crazy in a game with a total of 39.5 that you see both defenses, I mean, just because there might not be a bunch of points.
Yeah,
And if you got a bunch of
certainly see
field
that in
goals
the
and some
outfield.
turnovers, it's not crazy at all to suggest that we could see these two teams, the defenses step up. And if you do that, and are we fading the quarterbacks completely in this case?
Uh, maybe just Roethlisberger. We'll see. We'll see if we can throw Fields in there.
All right, so obviously we're going to put Najee Harris in there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go with the defense captain, you can basically do whatever you want.
Yeah, you're pretty open.
Yeah, I mean, you could go. Let's see. Yeah, you can go Pittsburgh, and then I don't want Big Ben in there. I'm not talking to you, Chris. Sorry, I was yelling at this optimizer. You go Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Najee, and then come back with Allen Robinson. I mean, you can kind of pick. You basically have to pick which guys you think will be successful, and I think you want the short yardage guys. Or actually, you know what? Go Freiermuth and Fields here. So we'll have the two. It'll be pretty sure we can do that, right?
Yeah, you can do both defenses: Claypool, Fields, Freiermuth, and Harris.
There we go. I don't hate that. Freiermuth. This game is so gross.
It's tough. This is gonna be a tough sledding. I do think that we might be overlooking. When we talk a lot about Chase Claypool. I mean, Deontay Johnson also is just getting an unbelievable amount of targets, and that gives you a pretty safe floor for a game like this. And his ADOT is much lower than most of those other guys when you talk about an elite receiver. Roethlisberger, again, like we say, he's not going to be pushing it down the field. He really can't do that right now. So Johnson might be somebody who I think is a little bit slept on.
Well, that's a good point too. Is you can get access to the because DraftKings is point per reception, right? So you could get Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool in there, get their receptions from Roethlisberger without the yards necessarily being, without getting a bunch of yardage. So what do we end up with? We ended up with 1,100 left over. So you could take out Freiermuth. Can you get up to? Can you get up if you take out Freiermuth there? Can you get up to Deontay Johnson? Probably not. No. No, not even close. So what if you could do? Can you get if you? All right, let's so fade the quarterbacks completely. So we're gonna go Najee, Claypool, Deontay, Bear, and the two defenses. What does that leave us with? Oh, and then you get Allen Robinson in there. Honestly, with $100 left over. So basically, all the short yardage weapons. So then you basically have your pick: Allen Robinson or Freiermuth in that spot, and you have the Bears defense, so you can go 5-1 Steelers or 4-2.
You could also go
Darnell Mooney if you wanted there. Yeah, and so you're essentially picking one of those other targets, and the idea being that, maybe Ben ends up with a bunch of completions and no yardage. Or I just don't think the volume is going to be there for Ben, and you don't get points for completions. You get points for passing touchdowns. We could easily see Chase Claypool run one in on like a jet sweep. Najee Harris, they could just pound Najee Harris at the middle, and Big Ben comes out of this with 230 passing yards and a touchdown, and the Steelers win 17-14, and Allen Robinson catches a touchdown or is the leading receiver for the Bears. So that's I don't mind that construction at all. That is a low scoring rock fight.
Well, and like I said, when we were talking about the props with Roethlisberger, I like the under on his passing yards touchdowns at 1.5. Yeah. He's only thrown 2 touchdowns in a game, or more than 1 touchdown in a game once this season. So it's not like he'd have to go completely out of the norm for this to happen. This is basically who Roethlisberger's been this season, and that's with him dropping back like 40 times in a game each week.
Yeah, I would much rather pay up $900 for Deontay Johnson as a captain, or pay down $300. Actually, pay down, $2,400 for Chase Claypool as a captain than to go with Big Ben, because I think there's just more equity in terms of the receptions. And obviously, if Big Ben solely focuses on Deontay Johnson and they have 2 touchdowns together, and Claypool is your captain, your host. But I think you could build lineups with both Claypool and maybe Deontay Johnson, depending on how many lineups you're putting in. Okay, so
I think Johnson's interesting. I think Johnson's
let's build a Johnson one. I'm all over the place today. I don't know what I'm building these just heinous lineups straight out of the gate. Defense first. Yeah, can't wait to start doing a bunch of Justin Fields captain lineups later, and right before kickoff. All right, so Deontay Johnson as our captain. All right, so and look,
You're still throwing Najee in there. I feel
I
like
don't think there's any way you can build a lineup in this spot with his usage without including Najee Harris.
yeah, I mean, obviously there's going to be a few out there, and if he gets hurt in the first quarter, congratulations, you're going to be in the optimal.
You can totally fade Najee Harris. I mean, go for it. It's not outrageous, but good luck.
Yeah, I mean, it would be even like, even last Thursday when we were talking about Jonathan Taylor. It's a very similar situation that they find themselves in. But again, not Naeem Hines got in there, but you still needed Jonathan Taylor to get in there. I mean, you talk about he rips off a 75 or 78-yard touchdown run. It pretty much shoots you right back into the thick of things there. And Najee Harris certainly has that capabilities to do the same exact thing. So again, you can go different directions and try to get cute with a Benny Snell and see what happens. But I still think you're just going to need this guy to get into that optimal if he's healthy for the entire game.
Absolutely. Sorry, I don't know if you noticed me sneezing earlier. They sneezed on camera. It's got me all thrown off. I had that happen before. All right, so Deontay Johnson, Najee. Where do you want to get? What do you want to add after that? I mean, now you could make the case that you could make the case that you want to have Big Ben in here if you have Deontay Johnson, and it's just like a pure like feeding Deontay Johnson. I mean, but it's your lineup, so go for it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because again, if we're talking about him, going off of this 2-touchdown game or whatever it's going to be, him just racking up a ton of yards and stuff. Yeah, you're going to want to have the quarterback in there as well to kind of complement that. It's tough. I mean, it's not going to be easy to see what happens down the road here. It's going to have to be, you're probably talking yourself into Gentry,
Yep.
just to kind of fill in some depth there at 1,800.
Yeah, if you go Big Ben, you're probably exactly. You're basically going the two defenses in Gentry or Gentry.
Gentry, it's one of them.
I mean, the Bears defense at 2,600 is just. I mean, they're down a bunch of playmakers, and if Eddie Jackson is out, that's a problem. But that's a cheap option that you can utilize from that side. Do you want to put the Bears in there too?
Yeah, and so again, you're going.
You have to have one bear.
And it's not. I mean, it's not. I guess out of the realm of possibility that one bear could be the defense. It's
Sure.
not. Low scoring game like this, it's certainly possible. So again, that's not that bad. If you're going, a bigger, when you have these Steelers 5-1s, it might be a little unique to have the defense as the one bear.
Absolutely. And then you got, what do we have left? 5,800.
Yeah, I think you can fit. Who do I have?
Steelers defense, James Washington.
Yeah,
Cole
you can
Kmet.
go with Steelers defense. Oh, you could go Cole Kmet. You could do that as well. Yeah. But if you want to have a true 5-1, I would probably just lean towards the defense. Honestly, that's probably where I would go, especially if you feel like this is clearly a Steelers onslaught here. So yeah, I would go defense. James Washington doesn't do much for me.
Yeah, James Washington didn't do a whole lot for me either. I mean, I think it would just be surprising if the Bears defense. Well, they did score -1 last week against San Francisco, -2 against Tampa Bay. My goodness, they've been bad.
No, they haven't been great against the run. Those are two teams that can run the football. Leonard Fournette, obviously, and
the
Elijah
Bears
Mitchell.
have been hemorrhaging points lately.
Yeah,
33 and 38 the last 2 weeks. Bears defense. So, the Bears defense is probably not going to be very heavily played.
I mean, would you? Yeah, probably not. But also, would you? Do you want to go revenge game factor and throw Jesse James in there instead? I mean, we could do that.
He did catch a touchdown last week, didn't he?
I believe so. Yes.
And nobody wants to be part of the Bears defense. You're right. They're going to be like 10% owned, 1% captain. That's maybe even less than that. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, 20% owned, 1% captain. Bears defense captain could be an interesting thing if you think that they can score, and we saw what happened with the Titans last night. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's I like the Deontay Johnson narrative, and I think we've actually already given out the Costanza lineups, unless you've got a different Costanza.
No, I think I don't know which one. With a game like this, I don't know which the one is actually the Costanza lineup. But we got a few.
I mean, I kind of like this sloppy, low scoring game where you could veer a different way, and you could even load up on the idea that like Justin Fields captain, and I'm just spitballing. We don't need to load this one up, Chris, but like you could go Justin Fields captain and then a bunch of playmakers for Pittsburgh and avoid the defenses, because it looks like the defenses are going to be, fairly like the Steelers are going to be 30% rostered in terms of their defense. The Bears are going to be 20% rostered. That is, the Titans were, I think, 4% rostered on Sunday night and captain in like 0.17 or something like that. And those were winning until late, until that garbage time touchdown by the Rams. So, this is, if it's almost like if you're going Costanza, maybe the move is to say this will be a high scoring game.
Yeah, it's an over game.
And we don't roster the defenses, and the defenses don't create turnovers. And so, yeah, I mean, I think like, all right, so, well, anyway, that's those are the two options. I think you maybe don't play it straight down the middle quite as much, because if there are scoring and there's not turnovers, and I think there will be turnovers, it's hard to you don't get points from your defense without the turnovers. So they're just worth noting. All right. We came out of the gates with the Costanza lineup and then flipped it back to the other one. I love it. Sully, as always, a pleasure, my man. We will talk on Thursday.